only place for everything Vikings. 6, 1, 2, Vikings.
Welcome back to another edition of 612 Vikings. After a long waiting, it's been like over a month now, but we are finally back, hopefully back on a good schedule here. I am back with my friend Drew. Um, Today we're going to be talking about JJ McCarthy, our new Vikings quarterback, and possibly some Dallas Turner as well. So, Drew, if you want to reintroduce yourself to the people that might not know you, and then we'll get right into it.
All right. My name's Drew. You can follow me on Twitter with Skull TV as well as TikTok at Skull TV as well.
Awesome. It's short and sweet. We'll go right into this. So today we're gonna be talking a little bit about JJ McCarthy. Like, when is he gonna start for the Minnesota Vikings? We got Sam Darnold on the roster. We have Nick Mullins. We have Jaron Hall. Now the last two guys, I don't think that they're even gonna touch a snap with this team unless all goes to hell and everybody's injured in the quarterback room. But regardless, I think Darnold possibly starts this season. Maybe the first couple games. Um, I don't know. That's kind of been the consensus with the Vikings. I'm just kind of curious, Drew, what your thoughts are. When do you think Sam Darnold is gonna start? When is he gonna end? When is JJ McCarthy gonna uh, start on this team? What do you think that kind of looks like?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. So there's been a lot of reports going out that Kevin O'Connell has set up some building blocks for JJ McCarthy to hit. So once he hits this, X building block, then he goes on to another one and so on and so forth. So I mean, it really just it's going to be on him. I mean, I don't think right now we have an answer of when who's going to start. But if I had to put a guess, I'd probably say it's Sam Darnold's job to lose for week one right now, just because JJ McCarthy does have to hit these blocks before he can get the starting job. But McCarthy's been a guy where if there's any sort of obstacle in his way, he's not afraid to overcome it. And we saw that last year with TCU. He had that big roadblock and went undefeated and won a national championship. So I wouldn't put it past McCarthy to also start week one as well.
What are your chances of McCarthy starting week one? What do you think?
So Ben Gessling, that's a good question. Ben Gessling of the Star Tribune actually just said something recently. He said he's going to give McCarthy about a 10% chance to start as of right now. But I think a lot of that is just because, these guys are rookies. There's that transition period. It's really hard to find those CJ Strouds, those Justin Herberts, those year one magic, lightning in a bottle kind of guys that come in so quickly. Could it happen? Absolutely. I mean, we don't really know, but it's kind of a exciting time right now because it's hope season, so you really don't know what you're gonna get. So that's all we
Yeah,
really got right now.
yeah, exactly. And the same thing going off of that is, McCarthy definitely has a chance to start the season if he impresses the coaches during training camp. He hits all those benchmarks through the offseason. I don't know what kind of benchmarks those are. Kevin O'Connell's play calling, just his schematics and scheme and all that. I know that's the same thing, but
Hmm.
it's complicated. Even Kirk Cousins, what is he, 10, 12, 13-year vet, something like that.
Hmm.
He even stated that he had a tough time learning this offense. And I do believe JJ McCarthy will get it down. I it wouldn't be the worst case scenario to have him sit this whole year either. Sam Darnold, I we have the weapons to have Sam Darnold succeed in this offense. And with everything going right this season, if it does, Sam Darnold shouldn't have too bad of a year. And I was also going to bring up too that you look at some of the greatest quarterbacks that have played, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, um, just those types of caliber quarterbacks. They sat their rookie year. Um, and or just even a couple years. So if JJ McCarthy's not ready, I don't think it's the end of the world for Vikings fans. Um, and then you look at guys like Peyton Manning, and there's a couple other guys that their rookie year they threw hundred. not hundreds, but felt like hundreds of picks, but definitely threw quite a bit. And, it didn't really derail their career either. So
Mhm.
it'll definitely be interesting to see what this offense looks like with Sam Darnold as QB1.
Yeah.
Um,
With a guy like this, I mean, it's with McCarthy, it's the tape really hasn't shown what he can really be because that Michigan offense really did feel like it ran through Blake Corum and ran through Donovan Edwards. But when push came to shove, when you had those gotta have it plays, they did look to JJ McCarthy to make those plays. And if you follow me on Twitter, I just recently put out a tweet that said, that showed that last drive of that fourth quarter for Michigan. It was 4th and 2. They didn't it was those are kind of situations where you look and you say, okay, are we going to trust our running back to get those 2 yards, or are we going to pass it? Because Will Reichard's on that other field, who just got drafted, top kicker drafted, greatest, had the most points scored in college football history, and they're in range. So if they don't get this, they're kind of SOL. Game's going to be over, 2 possession game. You're kind of looking like, oh, here we go again. What does he do? He steps back, he finds Corum on the little out route, and he gets a 30-yard gain. And they don't run the ball again that entire drive. So it's all on JJ McCarthy just to win them that game, or at least tie that game, to put that game into the overtime possibility.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what also helps JJ McCarthy's case too is he is coming from a pro style offense as well with Jim Harbaugh
Hmm.
and just how that offense is ran. Yeah, there's a lot of running in that, and I don't think Kevin O'Connell's offense is obviously more run heavy than pass heavy. But you have a solid running back in Aaron Jones and awesome, top tier pass catchers on offense to throw to. So when JJ McCarthy gets his shot, I don't think he fails too miserably. When he does get his shot.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, like with if Darnold does get the job to start off, I don't think it's the worst case in the world either, because there's still a possibility. Like, what if Sam Darnold, I don't think he's going to be this MVP candidate kind of quarterback. I think that time has passed. I think we'd be kind of moronic to kind of think that. But what if there's a scenario where Sam Darnold throws, like, by the trade deadline, he throws like 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Not MVP numbers, Pro Bowl numbers, but good enough to win you some games. Last year we saw so many quarterbacks go down with injuries. Say, like a Cincinnati or somebody like that. Let's say Burrow goes down, God forbid, but that leaves that door open to trade Darnold and recoup some picks that you just lost to trade up to get Dallas Turner. So there isn't, just because McCarthy doesn't start right away, it's not the end all be all. So it might could it end up could being a blessing in disguise if that does happen as well. Something to think about if you're a Viking fan.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if Sam Darnold does start, I don't know if he'll get us to a Super Bowl or anything like that.
Mhm.
We're not going to go all Philadelphia Eagles style and build him a statue or anything. Maybe we
Mhm.
should. If we do win the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold, maybe we should build a statue of him. But before we get to Dallas Turner here, I do want to ask you this. Be, I should have asked you this at the top of the show, but what was your thoughts on the Vikings draft? Like, what kind of grade would you give them? How did you think the rest of the draft worked out besides the first two picks?
I think it worked out fine. With I don't believe they had a third round pick or second round pick from the Hawkinson trade, so they were missing that day 2 pick. But I mean, you essentially just moved up your secondary with Dallas Turner, which was a big home run. I think Kyrie Jackson, that was the Vikings. I feel like kind of had like that third round grade on him. A lot of mocks had him going in the third. So to get him in the fourth, I think is solid. Gives you that big body corner. You didn't have a fifth round pick, but you really addressed special teams. I think a lot of people, they're really upset with the Reichard pick, but we were on a call with some people we know, and we went through. We were like, okay, which of these top kickers? When were they drafted, or were they undrafted? And it leans towards these top kickers. It's really top heavy to being drafted. So I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like with the Vikings kicking history, they really do deserve that top tier kicker. And it is possible Will Riker can do that. He's got a leg. He's super accurate. I mean, he's been pretty much clutch the entire time. I mean, that Rose Bowl game with Will Riker too, against JJ McCarthy, he really came up big for a lot of key kicks that put Bama into that overtime game. Did give him a chance to win. Levi Drake, I think that's a really interesting one. With I think I wouldn't expect anything, John Randall kind of thing,
Oh,
where the small school guy comes out of nowhere and like, who is this guy? So, but he could be a nice, rotational guy, I feel like. And then they also got Michael Jurgens. I think that's a good Schlottman replacement, can give you some versatility on the interior as well. So,
I kind of like
um,
that pick.
yeah, and it gives you versatility, and I think that definitely does help. And then with Walter Rouse too, that guy can be a swing tackle. He played a lot of left tackle at Oklahoma, but you can move these guys around, and it gives you options. Which is what is so great about this online. You can plug and play somebody that's hurt, and you don't have to worry about rushing to sign some free agent and have to play some Chris Reed at center against Green Bay. So
Yeah,
yeah. So I think that's what's really good about this draft. It gives them options in case somebody does get hurt.
sure. Yeah, I saw that a lot of people had, the Vikings with it really ranged from a plus draft to a B to a even the lowest I've seen is like a C minus, which,
Mhm.
those people how much do they know football really? Like we addressed some pretty good needs in depth in this draft, especially with the kicker, the all-time leading scorer in college football history with Will Reichert. And then just some offensive line depth, defensive line depth. So yeah, I think it was a pretty good draft depth wise too. So you got Dallas Turner, probably the best defensive player on the board at the time, when we traded up to what was it, 17 with the Jags. So I think it was a pretty awesome draft too. Like I said, filled pretty much every need that we need depth wise. So
Mhm.
let's go on to Dallas Turner here. Kind of the same question with JJ McCarthy in like what kind of role does Dallas Turner get with this Brian Flores defense? Is he a starter? Is it a linebacker by committee? Where you have Jonathan Grenard, you have Van Ginkel, you have Turner.
Mhm.
Maybe the Vikings are looking to get another edge rusher, D lineman too. But just curious what your thoughts are on Dallas Turner potentially starting for this Vikings defense.
Yeah, he's going to be a day one starter. I mean, this guy is so explosive off the line. It really, they've got the big power guy with Bernard, and the thing that they're really missing with Daniil Hunter was the speed aspect. Daniil Hunter had some power too to his game, but he was mostly known for his speed coming off the edge. And Dallas Turner's so quick off the edge. Because I think he ran like what a 4.46 or something like that at the 40. So he's a pretty explosive guy.
I do
The
want to
other
add in
thing,
here real quick too, is I don't know if this was true, but I saw that Dallas Turner ran a faster 40 than Jordan Addison. Does that sound about
yes,
right?
yes, I believe Jordan Addison ran about a 4.5, but to be fair to Jordan Addison, I do think he pulled a hamstring running that 40.
Oh,
So I think he was
okay.
kind of trying to hop towards the finish line a little bit. So
Gotcha.
um, I would still say Jordan Addison's a little bit quicker, I think, when healthy.
Yeah.
Like I said, these guys are so neck and neck with speed. Like a 4.7 and a 4.5, if you put them at a 40, they're pretty close. But
Yeah.
but people think it's such a big difference. So um,
Mhm.
but kind of going back to that Dallas Turner thing is a lot of his measurables are pretty similar to Von Miller's. Though, no, I'm not saying he's going to be Von Miller. It'd be great if he was, but it is something that is really exciting too. So I don't think that's a guy that you put in on the bench day one and have him rotate in. Granted, when you'll have rotation guys like we had with Wanham and Pat Jones, that's going to happen. But uh, what's good about this D line though is that it's versatile. It gives you options, and that's what's so good about this roster is that we didn't really have that with the Spielman roster. Is you can plug and play guys. You can move a Grenard, to be that five tech. You can put Ginkle and Van Ginkle and Dallas Turner on the edges. So it is something that does help Minnesota by giving them those options.
Yeah, for sure. And where does Dallas Turner fit? Like, is he lining up, in the same formations as Van Ginkel and Grenard, or do you think it is kind of like a formation based idea with Brian Flores?
I think it really just can depend on the play call. He's primarily going to be an edge, but I wouldn't be shocked if he does see one, two, few snaps where they kind of line up in the A gap, and you have Bernard and Van and Dallas Turner rush up the A gap, kind of bringing that vintage Mike Zimmer kind of look a little bit. So you could put him every once in a while in the interior, but I would say mostly he would mostly see the edge going against the tackles.
Sure. Yeah, I'm literally trying to look up the edge rusher that we signed in UDFA. Gabriel
Is it?
Murphy, that's who it
Yeah,
is. Um, Now Gabriel Murphy, I think could be, if I read it right, was he the one that the Vikings gave the most money to as a UDFA?
yes, he was the top UDFA available on most
Okay.
consensus boards. So, um, and I'm sure your next question is how is it going to be related to Ivan Pace a little bit?
Either Ivan Pace or even like Andre Carter, because I feel like Andre Carter was kind of like that. I don't want to say top tier UDFA, but had the potential, very raw
Mhm.
potential. I just
Yeah,
had my voice assistant talk to me. That scared me.
no, you're good. So yeah, with Gabriel Murphy, I wouldn't put the Ivan Pace expectations on him right away, just because I think that is something that doesn't happen very often. But does he have the potential? Absolutely. That being a fourth round pick, kind of on the boards, mock drafts, that kind of was like in that Ivan Pace range. This guy was a transfer, just like Ivan Pace was. Came from a smaller school. Gabriel Murphy came from North Texas, transferred to UCLA, as in Ivan Pace transferring from Miami of Ohio down to Cincinnati to play with his brother. So there are a lot of similarities between the two, but I do think he has a good shot to make this roster, and I think it's going to be a battle between Andre Carter and Gabriel Murphy for that fourth edge spot. I do think, unfortunately, I think one of the biggest losers will be Pat Jones out of this, but that's kind of what you have training camp for. Things can happen, things can go your way. Maybe we don't really know what work he's putting in. So we've seen some guys in our past on our roster we didn't really think had a shot to make the roster, and they did. I think the most recent being Ryan Wright. We thought it was all Jordan Berry's job to lose. Went to Ryan Wright, and the rest was kind of history from there. So we'll kind of see how training camp plays out, and I think that fourth edge spot is going to be a really good camp battle for that depth chart spot.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, training camp, there's going to be so many competitive battles for almost every single position. You look at wide receiver three, if the Vikings bring in anybody else too, I think it's Brandon Powell's job to lose, for wide receiver
Mhm.
three. You have, a couple O-line, interior O-line battles. You got left guard, possibly right guard too. I feel like they kind of like adding room too. But going on defense, the backup, edge rushers, defensive line, that's not, penciled in or anything right now. The cornerback position, that's going to be awesome to watch too. So yeah, this training camp is going to be super fun to watch. It's going to be super interesting to see where Brian Flores plugs in, a lot of these guys because, a guy like Gabriel Murphy, I saw that his measurables were, shorter arms, just kind of like his undersized defensive lineman or edge rusher. But that's all right. We had Ivan Pace as an undersized linebacker, and I think he did just fine. He got a pick last year, a couple couple good sacks on defense as well. So yeah, I think that there's a spot for a guy like Gabriel Murphy on this defense. A spot for Dallas Turner. A lot of these newbies as well on defense from the draft. So yeah, it'll be super interesting. I guess kind of going off of that, what kind of position are you looking forward to this training camp?
I'm gonna say the linebackers. I want to kind of see
Mhm.
how Ivan Pace's jump into year two looks, and I think this Toledo UDFA. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but I was looking at his stats, and I've seen him play with going to a MAC school myself. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets that fourth linebacker spot, and I think a bigger question could be is what's going to happen with Brian Samoa now because with Blake Cashman being added to the roster, Ivan Pace kind of securing his spot. What's gonna happen with him? Are they gonna go? Is he only going to see some certain looks and certain packages? So I think this linebacker group is going to be a real interesting one to watch this upcoming training camp.
Yeah, what is it? Asamoah only had like one or two snaps on defense last year. Like it wasn't much. I don't even know if he even got that, but I feel like that's right in my head for
Mhm.
some reason. But Yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe that was Lewis Seen. I don't know. Even Lewis Seen is kind of like a roster bubble guy. I don't know if he's gonna make
Hmm.
it. Is Who knows? I don't know if he
Yeah,
has a fit.
I think it is something to note too with this 2022 draft class that these guys were drafted for the Ed Donatel scheme, which is night and day different to what Brian
Mhm.
Flores runs. Brian Flores tends to run a lot more man, being a lot more aggressive, where Donatel is a lot more conservative, more zone, letting the game come to them. So with a guy like Lewis Seen, there's been reports that he hasn't been picking up the Brian Flores playbook, which I feel like is kind of surprising with his play style at Georgia was very aggressive with the hits that he had. I think the most notable one being Kyle Pitts against in that big rivalry against Florida, where he pretty much just knocked him out. So I'm kind of surprised that he's not picking it up. So it sounds like it could be a confidence thing. Andrew Booth, he's more of a zone corner. So I don't know how well I mean, he's starting to improve a little bit. I think he did pretty well coming off the bench. I would probably take Booth over Caleb Evans right now, but I think mostly just because of the way position he was drafted, I think does have an effect on that as well. And another guy I just mentioned, Caleb Evans, like these guys were all drafted for that Donatel scheme, and now that it's totally changing, you're starting to see these guys see less and less playing time. So that could be a reason why Asamoah is not really seeing as much playing time this past season. So I think it is something to note with this upcoming training camp as well.
Yeah, if I read it right, I think Lewis Seen is with him. It's just not being able to learn the playbook or understand the playbook or something. Maybe it is a little complicated because I know Brian Flores defenses. They're definitely complicated for offenses. I can't imagine what it's like for the defense. But it's not like you can really dumb it down either. It's a complicated defense. That's all there is to it. So,
Hmm.
in Lewisine, I know he's a smart player, but maybe it's just a little too much for him. So, if you have anything else you would like to add before we end it off here, go ahead. Make sure you guys follow Drew on TikTok and Twitter, both Skull TV. I think they're a little different on each platform. I know there's a dot in between one of them, but yeah, Drew, let the people know where they can find you on the socials.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, TikTok I believe is Scott Skull.tv because TikTok does not let you do underscore, so it's not over there. And then Twitter will be Skull TV and then underscore at the very end. So, but yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me on, and look forward to being on here again.
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna try to get you on here weekly if that works out,
Mm.
and because I know you have some elite football takes with the Minnesota Vikings, so I'm sure people love that, and we will have some more for you guys next week. So we'll see you guys later. Skull Vikes.